在今天节目当中呢，我们依旧为大家邀请到是 CCDC 的这个行政总监 Malcolm Yeung 来到我们节目当中，再一次欢迎他。Let's talk about challenge. Okay. What a challenge of public safety for the CCDC over the past few years.
Yes. You know, I think that we do need more support. You know, I can just tell you the amount of investment that we've made in kind of increasing security in our buildings is not sustainable in terms of a financial thing. We're a nonprofit organization. You know, at the end of the day, when we built our buildings, we created budgets for them 20, 30 years ago. Those budgets did not account for a lot of what's going on now. So there has to be a solution on that side.
So if somebody needs help, how can they reach out to the CCDC?
We have a hotline that you can call, 415-984-2728. You know, I think folks who need assistance and representation should call that number. It may or may not come to Chinatown CDC, but it'll likely go to one of the 4 organizations depending on what the issue is. And you know, I think that's a start. I definitely think that you know, victims of crime should report to SFPD. You know, again, report. Those data points are really, really important for our community. You know, I think that we're trying to sort of build these programs and make them last. Because the pattern that I've seen over the last 20 years with hate crimes is hate crimes will happen. Everybody gets excited about it. There's a lot of conversation about doing something. The city will invest a little bit, and then it'll die down. And then when it dies down, no one remembers, no one cares. All the funding goes away. All of the infrastructure and staffing and knowledge we've built goes away. And then another wave will happen, and the same thing happens over again. We invest, we ramp up. You know, this is the 3rd cycle of anti-Asian hate violence that I've been through since moving here to San Francisco.
是，所以如果大家需要寻求帮助的话，可以打这个415-984-2728这支电话哦。Malcolm, I know you have personal story you can share with us to like inspire our audience.
Sure. So you know, when I was just starting out my legal career at the Asian Law Caucus, one of the first cases that I handled was a hate crime involving 3 young Chinese boys who had just graduated from Lowell High School. You know, they decided to go out, I believe it was a Friday evening, and get pizza on the corner of Taraval and 19th Avenue. And coming out of the pizza restaurant, they were accosted by a group of young white boys who were also high school students. I won't mention the school that they came from. And they started yelling racial slurs at the Chinese kids. And the Chinese kids tried to escape, but they were followed. And eventually that led to a confrontation in which the white boys beat them up, and in a couple of cases pretty severely. You know, they had to spend some hospital time. Unfortunately, I think in many instances let off the hook a little bit. And it was treated more as kind of like a high school fight, as oh, this was just a school rivalry, or it's kids being kids, boys being boys. And you know, I just want to say for the record, this was a complicated situation, because while I do think young people make mistakes, young people should be given second chances, especially when they have the support system around them to do so. There also needs to be accountability. And I think for the community, the Chinese community at the time, there was a very significant concern, like, what does accountability mean? What does it look like? And initially, you know, we were being told by the police, by the courts, oh, just let go of this, you know, it's just kids being kids. But I'm very proud of the fact that our community started highlighting this issue. Chinese media in particular, you know, was a champion. They covered this issue, and it drew more and more attention. And the more attention it drew, the more our community became committed to this case. And so there were rallies in which the community came out and were demanding justice for these 3 young Chinese boys. And for me, what was touching was when the case finally went to trial and we were in that courtroom representing these 3 boys from a civil standpoint, not from a criminal standpoint, the community showed up every day for 15 days or so. This was a long trial. And we just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. And I can guarantee you, if the community hadn't showed up like that, and really kind of made it clear to the court and to the judge that this was a serious issue, the outcome would have been different. I know that. Sometimes, we believe justice is blind, but justice isn't that blind. They've got one eye open looking at everybody, right? And so every day, people would show up. And so it was an issue that the court took a lot more seriously than maybe they would have, and it ended up in a hate crime prosecution and a hate crime conviction against these 3 young boys, which I thought was the right thing to happen. I'm also proud of the fact that, at the back end, when it came time for sentencing, right, and, do you go to jail, not go to jail, not everyone in the community agreed, but there was enough people who agreed, these are young people. They need to be given a second chance. Let's not send them to jail. Let's send them into a program where they can learn more about what their actions meant, why it was so hurtful for our community. And that's what happened. And so, I think and I hope both the victims and the perpetrators have moved on. I hope they've learned something from it, and I hope they've become better people for it. So that's one story. And, to me, it just says, if community comes together, if we come together, if we show up, if we make our voices heard, we can be very powerful on so many things, including hate crime.
Wow, thank you for your sharing your story. I believe you have a lot of story you can share with us. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have to stop here. Yeah. Okay, how about I see you next time?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
也非常谢谢各位观众朋友收看，下回见。